welcome, guys. Thanks for coming out. This is really exciting. Yeah, Maya explained the night really well. We're gonna have 5 really great storytellers tonight. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get everything going. I'm gonna be your guide for the evening, kind of keep the energy going. If you fill out those little slips and put them in that basket, then I can go ahead and I'll read a couple out here and there between stories, and we can all be in this together. We're all sharing and getting our experiences out, so it should be a really fun night. Is everyone ready to have like the best night ever? Yeah! I'll kick the night off. Give you guys a little taste for what we're gonna... I'm a fairly recent transplant to San Diego. I've only been here since like June, and it's a gorgeous city, and I really love living here. But prior to living here, I lived in San Francisco and I lived in Melbourne, Australia, and those 2 cities have some of the best public transport in the whole world. San Francisco is known for that, especially here, but Melbourne's like that, but like it's more expansive, and it's really amazing. But the thing is, I've always had kind of a funny attachment to public transport, because I grew up in Florida where there's literally none. There's nothing there. It's kind of a nightmare. And so getting to Australia, it was amazing to have a totally different experience, and I didn't have to drive. I didn't have to worry about that. But there was not all great things on transport. I think we can all accept that that's a fact. There was one afternoon in particular where I was coming home. It was peak hour, and because almost no one in Melbourne drives, it's similar to like New York or San Francisco, almost no one drives, so the trams and trolleys can get really, really packed right around rush hour. And I was coming home through a particularly stuck-up neighborhood, I guess is the best way to put it. The neighborhood's a little bit of a nightmare. A lot of like shiny suits and guys in like pointy-toed shoes and fancy hair. That's odd. Didn't expect that to happen. Like I should be telling like a scary story. It gets there. So a lot of shiny suits and like businessmen talking about memo. I've never worked in an office. I don't know what business people talk about, but it was one afternoon in particular. I remember I looked up, and a particularly large flock of shiny suited businessmen all got on the tram and kind of surrounded where I was sitting and were making paper jokes and stuff. And I quickly caught eye contact with one of them, and he was the most beautiful human being I'd ever seen in my entire life. Like, bar none. This counts movies. Like, I'm just, like imagine Bradley Cooper, but he has, like, nice dark hair. Like, blonde hairs for children. Like, it was great. Oh, it was so exciting. And we held eye contact for, like, a second, and I was in love. That was it. I was hooked. And so I kind of looked away and tried really hard not to, like, break into awkward giggles. And then I just looked back, and it happened again. So I was planning a wedding, and so I looked away, and now I'm kind of smirking probably, and I went to look back, just because, I mean, 3rd time, and you can plan like a retirement together. And I did, and like a normal human being, he was like talking to his friends and doing something else and looking out of a window, I don't know. But instead of going, oh, well, that was fun, and just moving on with my life, I felt angry and hurt and rejected and really sad, all at once. Like, it was just a storm of emotions. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just tried not to, I wanted to, punch the window or, break something to get attention like a 4-year-old. But instead of that, I looked down and I noticed he had a little patch, kind of, thing on a zippy line that had his picture and a barcode and his name. Clearly a security badge to get in and out of his job. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I should Google him. I've never had that thought in my life. What am I doing? And I'm prefacing this with now, I am the bad guy in this story, 100%. This is all me. I'm the bad one. But I remember I just thought, no. And then my brain was like, do it. And I just did. I just did it. So I just looked him up, and it's pretty good. He's a very accomplished software engineer. He's got multiple patents. He runs marathons. He could get me active. He can support my comedy career. This is really good. I was like, this is excellent. He owns a house. You can find deeds to people's houses through Google. Anyone who owns a house, think about that. You just need your name. So I found all kinds of stuff about him. It was really great. And then I found his Twitter, I found his LinkedIn, I found all of it. And I was kind of going through things. And when I found his Twitter, I was going through it. He retweeted like a lot like football players and like whatever. I can find many people to follow. Loves about compromise. He wasn't good at Twitter. But what happened next is I like to blame it on the fact that maybe it was the website instead of the app, or maybe it's because I was holding my phone at a weird angle because I knew I was being a monster. But instead of pushing back to just delve further into this poor man's life, I managed to push follow. And very quickly tried to push unfollow, but because it was the website and it lags, I managed to push it a bunch of times and it just went like follow, unfollow, follow, unfollow, follow, unfollow, and the pocket hanging like very near to me just kind of was like went off like 17 times. And I was like, oh God, no. I didn't know what to do. And he was like, oh, what's going on here? And now, like I said, because I do comedy, my Twitter handle is my full name, and my picture is very clearly me. So there's no escaping it at this point. It's definitely me. And he just kind of looked at it and was like, I don't know anyone named Arielle Conversi. And then kind of just looked at it and was like, oh. And this look of horror just spread across his face, like the kind of fear I didn't know I was capable of like inspiring in a grown man. It was weirdly intoxicating, but it was also really mortifying. And I kind of looked up at the little string that you pull for your stop, and it wasn't long enough to hang myself with. So I was like, well, I guess I just have to wait this one out. I had like 12 more stops to go and was like, I'm just going to pretend like that wasn't me, and just looked out of a window and just hung out for the whole time. And for the whole rest of the ride, I didn't look back even once, which I feel like I deserve a medal or something, because I felt really proud of it at least. And as we're going, I see my stop coming, I stand up without looking, I just pull the string, but it had dinged before I pulled it, and I looked over and he was just removing his hand from the string. So from his point of view, I just went like, oh good, where are we going? Yeah! Let's go, new boyfriend, yeah! Like that was it. Like I was just like, good, it's time for us to go home together. And that was very quickly just, again, that fear kind of spread over his face, and he like walked to the furthest end of the tram from me, like the furthest door, and just got off. And we both got off of the tram, and I tried really hard to give him one of those like, what a George Costanza kind of thing to happen look. But I think instead it was like, well, what do you say kind of a look. And he just took the strap of his messenger bag and he tightened it, and he looked at me and he ran the other direction, like ran in a suit and shoes and the whole, just booked it down the road. And I gotta say, I don't blame him, but yeah, that was, as terrible as it was, I was like, well, he lives in the neighborhood at least, so this is even worse. Told my housemates, like, too bad I'm not ever leaving the house again. You just have a house cat that's a person now, so that's it. I can't go anywhere. But I was an au pair at the time, and I was taking the little boy I looked after to a play date a couple of weeks later, and I had managed to not hang myself or throw myself off any bridges in the meantime. And I kind of was going and was like, all right, I think I've lived past this just awful, awful time. And Jack, the little boy, was talking about how his friend, it's really sad, he only gets to see him on the weekends because his parents are divorced, the little boy, and da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever, but he's a kid and I wasn't listening. And we get to this house, and he's like, so this is my friend's house, he's at his dad's for the weekend, it's super exciting, I love hanging out with Elliot. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I knocked on the door, and then it opened up, and lo and behold was my future husband, who didn't want to be. His name is Adam Jacobs, and it's fine, it's a whole nother continent, I can use his name. And there he was, and it made for the most convincing, no, I've got a really weird sister, we came together, she's my twin, my name's Kayla. Like, it was a really good lie, and I was really good at it. But eventually we got to talk, it was a very awkward cup of tea, while the kids played, but we got to know each other and he ended up becoming a good friend, and now it's just kind of a funny story about how I made one of the better friends I have in Australia. So public transport wouldn't have happened otherwise, so not bad, not bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring on our first storyteller for the night. Yeah, all right, is everyone ready? This is a young man that we had here last time for our last event. He was super exciting to watch, and I'm glad to have him back. Please welcome Jake Zawacki.